tape or whatever it was, a disc.
Should
Everybody
be on
wants
the
my
community
autograph
channel.
now.
Should be on now.
Okay.
Mark, don't you think that when we grant variances like this, you should specify how big a variance it is?
Yeah, that'll be talked
How many
about.
feet or-
Yes, sir. Yeah, 'cause it would be associated with the property.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I think that would be smart.
Yep.
Give me a clue when you think it's 7 o'clock. I forgot my watch.
It is after 7 according to my watch and his watch.
Yeah, I'm
a
after
minute
2.
before, so I think you're good.
Yeah, I got one after.
Okay.
Yep, you're good.
Chair notes the time is now 7 o'clock, therefore the meeting of the Board of Zoning Appeals of the Town of Farragut will come to order. Chair also notes the necessary number of members are present for a quorum for the conduct of the meeting. First item would be to swear witnesses. If you intend to address the board in any way, would you stand up, please, and be sworn? Raise your right hand. You swear that all testimony and other evidence you may present before this board shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God. I do. Thank you.
Would you state your name, please? Or
Lori Baxter McRae.
And when you speak, you would just need to go over there, please.
Let me go ahead and go over there.
You probably could. Yeah.
We will call on you when we're ready, okay?
Sounds good.
Mark, do you have anything on this, please?
Do you want to review the minutes first, or?
Yeah.
Yeah. Minutes.
or do the minutes?
Oh, wait, okay, let's go
Sorry.
ahead and get the minutes. First item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes for the August 27th, 2014 meeting. Do I have a motion to approve these minutes as written?
I so move.
Have a second?
Second.
Those in favor of approving the minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say no. The minutes are approved. Second item on the agenda is a public hearing on a request for a front yard setback and variance for the property located at 12201 Oakland Hills Point in the Foxden subdivision, Lot 27, Zone R2, Jerry Witherspoon applicant. And I assume you are Mrs. Witherspoon? Okay,
No, sir, I'm Lori Baxter McRae, and I'm the real estate agent involved.
okay. Okay, do you have anything on this?
Yeah, what this is a vacant lot in Foxden, at the intersection of North Foxden Drive and Oakland Hills Point. What their request is for a front yard setback variance of 15 feet. The setback requirement in R2, which is what this property is zoned, is 30 feet from the front property line. They're requesting basically as a result of if the variance were approved to allow that to go down to 15 feet instead of 30. And the reasons for their request, and they had a very detailed summary, which actually was really good as far as stating the reasons why they were applying for this relief. The first one is on your screen. That's the from the, that's basically a survey of the lot. And what it shows there is that when Fox Den, that unit of, that phase of Fox Den was originally platted, there was this little, what we call bulb out there. Let me, I can draw it. Let me see. This here. And normally what that is for, you know, a cul-de-sac or a turnaround. And there actually at one point was the actual pavement edge of the road at one point. You know, like that, you know. So it somewhat followed the platted right-of-way. But a few years ago, and I don't know really the history of this, I did check with our Public Works Director, but the town did go in and remove part of that, basically this portion here, and so that there is a consistent curb line. You know, basically that's where the actual curb of the road goes.
I was wondering, you saw that too. I know you got this lump in there. I went over and looked at it, and I didn't see that curve.
Yeah,
that
you
lump in
wouldn't.
there.
You can kind of see where that removal took place if you look at it closely. But it probably was platted originally to have some kind of landscape feature there, or to provide for potentially, you know, some kind of turnaround. But since it was taken out, probably at the request of residents in that area, the functional curb line is, you know, moved way back to this area, and you have all this kind of excess unused right-of-way, you know, this area. All this, all the way back to the curb. That part of the right-of-way is, you know, excessive for what you would normally have. Normally, the right-of-way line from the curb line on a local street, like streets internal to a subdivision like Fox Den, is roughly 12 to 15 feet. You know, you got the curb, and then if you go toward the house 12 to 15 feet, that's generally kind of where the property line generally is going to be. In this case, it's much further than that because of the way that original bump out, you know, was created and platted. And what that creates is the problem that creates for them is that the measurement is not taken from the curb, but it's taken from the right-of-way, which is up here. So that 30 feet, you know, would be from that point, which would be much further back than what you would normally have for, you know, a traditional lot where the curb line was more conventional. You know, like for example, on this lot here, you have the curb line coming in. You know, the front yard setback distance there from the curb line would be roughly somewhere between 42 and 45 feet. It would be the, you know, 12 to 15 feet back from the curb, and from that point 30 feet. So, you know, even if you took that kind of similar measurement from where the functional curb is on lot 27, their setback, what they're requesting, the variance they're requesting, still puts the building at, I believe, 63 feet from the existing curb. So the building would be set back, you know, over 15 feet further back than most houses would be with where you have a conventional curb line. I don't know if I'm making sense with that or not, but they're kind of being penalized for the way, for all this unused space. there. And you can see that the lot is kind of uniquely shaped. It's a pie-shaped lot, and it does, I did go out there and look at this, it does drop off pretty steeply as you go, you know, back this way. So another reason why they're requesting to be able to move the building up closer to the front is to kind of keep it as far up on the front of the lot to, you know, to keep it out of that real steeply. The whole lot really slopes, you know, to the rear, but it gets steeper the further back you go. There's also a utility, a sanitary sewer line easement. There's another thing here. That doesn't really.
Before you go away from that, if I may ask.
Yeah.
Who owns that part that you darkened out?
That's still the town's. It's public right of way.
That's still a public right-of-way, even
Yep.
though the curb is no longer, we're back in that area.
Yeah, we never have relinquished that right of
Are
way
we gonna
through a
relinquish that
quitclaim
right-of-way?
deed. I don't know. There's not really any. No one's requested it. I don't know the history of, you know, how that happened, but there's not been any request to relinquish that. There's a process they would have to go through and a replat, and you know, it maybe the applicant doesn't want to go through that expense and so forth. So, but you know, basically what happens now is that curb line just continues straight.
That's the way it is now.
Yeah, that's the way it is
The rest
now.
of that is all grass,
Yes, it is. Mm-hmm.
and it goes down pretty steeply.
Yes, it drops steeply the further back you go. You know, further back on the lot, it gets steeper and steeper. And what they're trying to do is bring the building up closer to keep it out of that steepest area. And then there's also a sanitary sewer easement that runs, that kind of bisects the property, you know, kind of in the back middle portion of the lot. So another reason to try to pull it up there is to keep it out of that 15-foot sanitary sewer easement that runs through the property. So that, yeah,
Let me ask you this, Mark, following up on that, if you can go back to
Okay.
that.
the original one.
Yeah, the one Mr. Lamarche was talking about.
Yeah.
All right, assuming, for the sake of argument, that the house were on lot 27 and we granted a variance 15
Uh-huh.
foot off the current front property line.
Yes.
To get to that house, you're likely going to need a approved road,
The
a
driveway.
driveway.
Yes, sir.
And how do you build a driveway to get to your house over land that the town owns?
Well, all driveways cross that area. It's just that area is wider here. You know, that distance between the curb and the real property line that all driveways cross is public right of way. It's
Sure.
just, in this case, the public right of way, the driveway depth is much deeper, you know, than normal. You might have, you know, a driveway here that's, you know, you're only in the right of way portion for 12 to 15 feet. This driveway, you know, you're in the right of way portion for at least double that.
But doesn't the town control how people have ingress and egress to their property onto one of the town's easements? Is that subject to?
It would be part of the building permit process, so when they submit a building permit, they would just need to make sure that, you know, if you were to extend these lines imaginarily all the way to the curb, that point of access falls within that extension somewhere. That would be the reasonable way to do it. You wouldn't want to put it over here. It would have to fall within.
You have to follow the property line.
Yeah, well, it'd have to
Curb.
fall within their plane of,
So what you've got, instead of 50-foot arc there, when you get out to the curb, it's even less than that for a driveway.
yeah. You've got a rather small width there, but the driveway would have to fall, it'd have to come in somewhere
They've got it shown on the right side there.
Well, that would have to be adjusted. We're not really looking at the driveway as part of this, but it's,
Well, and I realize that's not before us, but I guess one of my concerns is, do we have a minimum road frontage that you have to have in order to be able to have a
Yeah.
structure like that built?
well, it's an existing lot of record.
Okay.
You know, so it does have some protections. It is a 50-foot, and on a cul-de-sac, normally it's 75 feet with frontage, and it's 60 feet on a cul-de-sac, so it's a non-conforming lot in terms of its existing frontage, actually, but you can't, as you know, you can't necessarily deny somebody the ability to to use the property in a reasonable manner, because it was platted under different conditions, you know, probably not even when it was in the town, to be honest.
Do you have this figure?
I have that, yes. It might be a little hard to see.
It is hard to see. It's very difficult.
I don't know if it would help to show. This is just their, yeah, it's real difficult. I don't know if you've got, it's a little more
We've got
visible
it
on
up
my
here. The
screen.
reason I've asked you that is because in the write-up, it shows that they went through several house plans in order to get one to fit on that lot.
Yes,
And this was the one that they think they came up with was the best fit. But then the driveway shown on here is in that arc. The right-of-way, the old right-of-way there, not where the
Mhm.
curb is, way up front. And that's gonna be tight. I don't know how that's gonna work out.
well, the driveway will have to go through that arc to get down to the
Right.
curb.
It will do that, but what I'm saying,
Yeah.
where the curb is up there, that straight line curb that you had before, and any driveway that goes in there is gonna be from one part of the property line to the next.
Yeah, it'll be
One part of the
tight.
right away to the next.
Yeah, it'll be tight to fit it in there. It's gonna be a little bit of a long driveway. But it looks like what they are doing, it kinda comes out right in here, it looks like, so, you know, you just need to come out. Continue on to follow that. If you were to extend those two side property lines down, you know, to the curb, that it would be, you know, fall within that area as far as the driveway access.
But as a practical matter, there may be other hurdles that this property owner has to jump through, but those issues aren't really before us. It's just the front setback.
That looks like that would be something they could easily deal with. I mean, you could always, you know, shift the driveway over just a little bit. But when they submit for a building permit for a house on that lot, they'll have to show the proposed driveway. And that's one thing that we would want to see is, on that lot anyway, is that to make sure that it falls within that kind of, even though it's all public right-of-way, that it's kind of in line with their section of the curb that parallels the old right-of-way, or the platted right-of-way, for lack of a better way to describe
Right at the
it.
15 feet mark, how far back from the curb would they be?
63 feet is what they
Pretty
write
well-
up.
They'd be pretty well in there.
They'd be further back than what most houses would be under the 30-foot setback.
Still not getting into the sewer lines.
They would be out of the sanitary sewer easement. In fact, like I mentioned earlier, most houses on a traditional curb line in a R2 where you have a 30-foot front setback could be up to 42 to 40 feet, 45 feet from the curb. The front of the house could be somewhere around 42 to 45 feet from the curb. In this case, because of all that area there that was originally platted the way it was, even with the 15-foot setback variance, it would still be 63 versus 42, so 19 feet or 21 feet further back even than the functional depth of most houses on it. So, you know, to me, the reasons for considering relief in this case would be the unusual history and character of that bump out, thing and the functional curb line, the fact that the placement of the house would exceed by over 20 feet the front yard placement of other houses, you know, that would be along a traditional curb line. And then you got the topographic reasons for trying to move the structure up. Now, what the variance request would be associated with lot 27. It would be a 15-foot front yard setback variance. It's not based on the house that they show. It would be for any structure they put on the lot that
If
it
you
would
grant
be.
the 15 feet, and they're now
Mhm.
63 from the curb,
Mhm.
when they come for a house, is it gonna be measured to 63, or is it gonna go from that old?
It would be from 15 feet from the right
It'll
of
be from the
way.
old arc in there?
Yes, yes.
Unless that's taken out somehow.
That would involve a lot of stuff to do that. You'd have to
Really?
replat.
Set up to do that?
Mhm.
I mean, the road is already there. What's the setup?
Well, you'd have to replat the lot, and you'd have to go before the Board of Mayor and Alderman to do a quitclaim deed and have a new deed made. I mean, it's possible,
Sure.
but it's an expense that may be unnecessary. I mean, it's, you know, it was taken out several years ago. I don't know exactly an exact date, but I know our Public
Well, what I was
Works
getting
staff.
at is that the 15 feet is gonna be the governing factor for any setback for a house.
Yes,
If that's correct.
that's what
But the house will actually be something like 63 feet back from the curb.
Yeah.
Present curb.
visually, if you're looking at it from the street, and Lori can correct me if I'm wrong, but it would look more in character with the other houses if you did grant relief on this, because otherwise it's gonna be, because of that bump out, it's gonna be way back there, and you may just see kind of the middle portion of the house if you're looking at it from the street. So it, you know, aesthetically, it probably would be a better situation. Now, when you move the house closer to the road, you are getting into tighter side yard setbacks, and we're not considering, nor would I support granting relief on the side yard setback. But I assume they're aware of that. You know, the side yards have to total to 30 feet and no less than 10 feet on any one side, so I'm assuming their plan would be consistent with that, because they haven't asked for any relief on the side yard.
Now, you've got a house on 28 and 20,
Yes, you do.
26.
26 and 28 have a
Yeah,
house
okay.
on.
Yes.
Where will the location of this house line up with them? Pretty much a straight line across there? Or?
Yeah, Lori can talk about that. She can talk about the aesthetics of it.
If you're looking at the property from the street, looking to the left, the garage would be about even with the front of the house on the house on the left. And if you're looking at the front of the house on the right, the front doors will be the same, because Foxton requires either side entry or rear entry garages. You can't have a front, so we're gonna do a courtyard entrance. So that would kinda make the houses blend, because it's not a true hard turn between those two houses. The house on the right is actually on North Foxton. Its driveway is on North Foxton. The house on the left is also on Oakland Hills Point. So it'll be a good transitional house between those 2 points.
You're not gonna be either in front or behind the other two houses?
If we do not get a variance, the front door of the house would actually be behind the back corner of the house on the right.
Okay, okay.
May I ask you this? It sounds like you've decided on a house to put on that lot. Is that true?
We have a basic concept. We've tried lots of different, this is probably between our 5th and 8th buyer that we've looked at different houses and not been able to be successful in coming up with
Just
anything.
doing that for caution, because all we're dealing with here is the 15 feet. And then after that, that's your trouble.
Fair enough.
I mean, you know, we take the setback variance request very seriously, and then I would not support one if there weren't really unusual, unique situation associated with the property itself, which I think this property does qualify for that in a number of ways, really. I assume Fox Den is okay with that, or it's not really any of our business, but
I don't know.
if they're okay with the place, but you'd have to get that approved through them
Yes.
anyway. So we don't enforce that, but I'd just point that out.
Well,
So
it's good because there are more problems, especially with that hump in there and who gets to own that and how the line goes later on in the future. And how your driveway goes in there and how you drive in there when you only got 10 foot of driveway.
yeah,
That could be a major problem. That's for you all after we say what we've got to say.
Fair enough.
Due to the topography, shape of the lot, and the change in the road, I move we,
No, it goes down.
doesn't, Goes
The
down.
road is here,
yeah, it
The lot
does drop
goes-
off.
right down. I don't know how they're gonna build in there. Cutting that grass is gonna be a real booger.
well, that's her problem, getting the grass cut. I move we approve a variance for this
And I'd second it.
situation.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Carried unanimously. Mark, but you will put in
Thank
there
you.
a limitation on the number of feet to the
Yeah.
variance. Okay.
Yeah, I will put in some language that as a result of this variance, that the front yard setback will effectively be 15 feet from the platted right-of-way. So,
I move we adjourn.
And we have a second.
one reminder, guys, I think I sent you an email. Next Tuesday night at 6 o'clock, we have our property rights